Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and to shed more light on the tourism sector's achievements and hopes for the future, we're joined here in the studio by Mr. Alaa Khalifa, the tourism marketing and strategy expert. Mr. Khalifa, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure always.
Always a pleasure, sir. Now, Mr. Khalifa, it is a remarkable achievement to be ranked as the first in Africa, the fifth in the Middle East and North Africa, and the 51st position globally. Now that's about a jump of 6 places since 2019. Now, this is on the tails of a coronavirus pandemic as well. Now, there are so many questions regarding such an achievement and such an improvement, but let's break it bit by bit. Is it because Egypt is just an attractive proposition for an international tourist? Is it because Egypt has had a good track record in dealing with the coronavirus pandemic? Is it because, pardon, more flights were open and available, especially coming from Russia and such, to Egypt and the Red Sea resorts?
In my opinion, it has nothing to do with all of these things. In my opinion, it has something to do with the recovery process. We have reopened again for international tourism, and it's expected by the end of this year we would have received nearly 12 million travelers. So we are actually getting in a better position in terms of being a receptive company for international tourism. The fact that we jumped in competitiveness among other countries, there are some countries that still haven't opened fully yet. There are other countries that still have a few restrictions. I think most of the world is towards this direction. And we have been among the first early runners who have actually opened up the country to receive tourism. And when the Ukraine and Russian conflict took place, I think it helps us as to be an alternative destination for a lot of travelers, especially European travelers. And I think we're getting there, and I think we are getting in a much better ranking as time goes on.
Well, if we've achieved this sort of progress over the past year or two, and it is part of the recovery plan, did everything go according to our marketing strategy plan? Did our campaigns work? Is it because a reputation, a word of mouth that worked? Are we targeting more markets that haven't been targeted before?
True. We have been targeting a lot of markets and throughout different destination marketing campaigns, and throughout the strategies that have been put out even before the pandemic. They have achieved some of their goals, but you have to understand that there have been some disruption. And that disruption came from a pandemic that no one expected to happen. So this kind of sudden shutdown, it is not only on countries, it's actually for countries that are exporting tourism as well. So it's not the host country that not only shut down its borders, but also the host countries. Yes. They never send their tourists, and they have restricted the admission or the, certain destinations around the world based on these kind of variants that used to show up within the pandemic. However, in such, I would say, difficult times, no plans are being executed, no ideas are being fulfilled, and so it's very hard to attribute a KPI of a success of any international tourism growth in any country to a marketing plan. It's actually attributed to one thing. It's a human nature of traveling. A lot of people have been restricted from traveling for the last 24 months, and it's about time that they go somewhere. And so the need, the urge to travel is been rising, and a lot of people are thinking, where are the destinations that are open that we can jump in and we can go? And you never know when these destinations get closed down again, and you need definitely to see these destinations before it's too late.
Well, if travelers haven't been traveling for 24 months and they've been really waiting for the opportunities, and such as the ones Egypt have proposed. Now, how can we build on such a momentum, because that sort of urgency or desire to travel could soon fade away or go back a little bit? I mean, we do have a lot of cultural findings. Just today in Saqqara, there was an unveiling of many sarcophagi, many coffins filled with mummies. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of pieces that have been unveiled today at Saqqara, along obviously with all the museums and the cultural tourism that has been really up and running over the past couple of years. How can we maintain this sort of momentum?
Of course, with everything that you have said, we need to take care of our country branding. That's the most important thing. Secondly, any positive news that comes out of our destination, whether it's cultural, whether it's touristic, whether it's even political, anything positive comes out of a country help out so much the tourism sector. Very important that we also understand that we need to act like many other countries of opening up so much into events. You know, the Mummy Parade event has been the startup, the Sphinx Avenue event has been a second runner-up, and then and as time flies on, then we need to add more events. We need to encourage people to do events by the pyramids because that's one of the best iconic places around the world, and we need to attract mega stars to do these events. And through these events, there have been a number of events just a couple of months back, and the interest has been phenomenal. We need to encourage also international conferences and meetings, and encourage companies that are doing incentive travel, to come to Egypt. In next November, we're having the COP27, which is a great climate change conference that will be attended by so many countries around the world. So the attention of media will be towards this part of Egypt. We need to rebrand the whole thing. We need to bring out, we need to open up facilities, especially touristic facilities for a lot of events. There is also the opening of the new Grand Egyptian Museum is coming. So one of the main secrets, it's not really a secret, that a country or a place like Dubai have been extremely successful in attracting a lot of visitors from all over the world, is that it has an agenda of events.
Yes.
So every month there is something, either it's an exhibition or a fair or a special event, artistic event, or something that is related to fashion or related to industry or related to whatever.
Shopping.
So shopping events, a lot of these different things that are branding this destination for different people. And the more better experience you're creating for the travelers, of course, the more interest you're going to generate.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the rebranding of the tourism sector and rebranding Egypt as a touristic destination, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, along with the Ministry of Environment, have really launched the Towards Green Development of the Tourism Project sector. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
الزراعي مرورا بمحافظتي القليوبيه ثم القاهره ثم الجيزه وانتهى عند محور الضبعه بغرب ارتفاعات طريق القاهره الاسكندريه الصحراوي بمسافه 8
المشروع هيتكلف تقريبا 360 مليار جنيه خلال سنتين. هيتعمل طبقا يعني أقصى المعايير العلمية والتكنولوجية والفنية في كل شيء.
Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad and Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Khalid Al-Anani launched the Towards Green Development of the Tourism Sector project in the presence of regional representatives of the United Nations Development Programme in Egypt and a number of representatives of ambassadors, stakeholders in the tourism industry and international media. This project is the first of its kind in Egypt and aims to improve the performance and sustainability of tourism in line with Egypt's 2030 strategy. It is also considered as part of Egypt's preparations to host the COP27 climate conference set to be held in November in Sharm el-Sheikh. Towards green development of the tourism sector has been prepared by the project Integrating Biological Diversity with Tourism in Egypt, which is implemented through the Environmental Affairs Agency in cooperation with the United Nations Development Programme, with funding from the Global Environment Facility. The project also comes under the auspices of the Presidential Initiative for Environmental Awareness, Be Prepared for Green, in cooperation with the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities and a number of concerned ministries and governorates. 5 main outputs of the project have been set to achieve green and environment-friendly development in the tourism sector. The outputs include preparing a guide to the best environment-friendly practices in the hotel sector to help enhance the application of easy-to-implement environmental measures and ensure financial efficiency for those in charge of management. The Egyptian portal for sustainable tourism was developed for the first time as an online tool for hospitality professionals, tourism experts and the private sector, as well as the Egyptian Tourism Federation as key partners in integrating environmental protection with tourism activities. A guide to the best sustainable, cost-effective environmental practices in restaurants and a guideline for eco-lodges were also launched, in preparation for launching a new licensing mechanism by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, which is the first step of its kind to organize the ecotourism market in Egypt and increase investments in nature reserves. This is in addition to launching the Green List campaign, which aims to increase the awareness of tourists about eco-hotels and tourist facilities bearing eco-labels, as well as about products that have adopted sound environmental and social standards, giving alternatives to products that has a negative impact on the environment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Mr. Khalifa. Now, talking about tourism, green tourism, eco-friendly, talking about climate change, talking about turning all the sort of services that are associated to the tourism sector, all the hotels, all the transportation, the communication. The nature needs to change of the tourism sector to be environmentally friendly, green, no carbon emissions, obviously in light, as you've mentioned, of the COP27 that we'll be hosting next November.
We have to.
So how difficult or how beneficial could it be turning into an environmentally friendly tourism sector? Because to many it could sound more on the boring side, that things won't be as fun as they used to be because everybody has to be more cautious or more things would be restricted.
First of all, tourism is one of the industries around the world that is not emitting a lot of carbon dioxide. You know, it's not encouraging a lot of factories, you know, to pollute the air or change the climate. Tourism in its nature tends to be a sustainable industry, sustainable for its existence, for its community, for its society around, and so it's easy that you can create that kind of pattern of sustainable and green tourism. There are many ways how to avoid that, by avoiding getting into the trap of overcrowded tourism or what we call over-tourism, by encouraging more of a rural tourism, encouraging more of a lodging, on an adventure style tourism, encouraging different investors by building the lodges that are sustainable, from the environment around them. So there's so many ways how we are turning the face of tourism into more of a sustainable usage of resources. Keeping and maintaining resources in itself is actually part of green tourism. Declining or decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide emission, and this is the ultimate goal, so we can protect our planet and protect the climate. And this goes hand by hand with the next conference, where we are encouraging people to protect the climate, Earth climate, by omitting and reducing the carbon dioxide into the air. We encourage also hotels to use natural resources, but also not to overuse them. We encourage, for example, marine tourism, not to destroy natural resources such as corals, by putting restrictive ways how to approach to these things. There are many ways where we can easily transform our type of tourism into a more of an eco-friendly. I would say eco-friendly. I cannot say fully green because things are not green yet, but it's still it's imperative to have them into the tourism industry. I would say eco-friendly, and this is the ultimate goal, and that kind of change is not going to happen overnight, but it is going there. And I think we are one of the very few countries around the world that is polluting the world today. If you look into statistics especially related to climate, you will find out that 70% of the pollution that comes out for the climate, for the earth, it comes out from industrial first world countries and from the G20 in general. Yes. So without G20 doing anything about it, then there would be no change in the climate. We are one of the very few countries that are doing this kind of emission or helping, or increasing the problem. We're actually, naturally, we are doing our best to get everyone together, and also trying to expand into more discovering natural resources. And it's happening actually these days. One of the things that also you have mentioned is that we are shifting nowadays into using energy, creating electricity by doing wind, by solar. Egypt owns today one of the biggest solar power plants in the world, the Bimban station in the south, 150 kilometers south of Aswan. Also, if you ever had the chance to go all the way across the coast of the Red Sea, you'll be noticing a lot of wind, yes, in Ras Ghalib, a lot of wind turbines in there. And these projects are producing electricity and emitting the footprint, or the carbon footprint in Egypt. In the same time, bring us clean, reusable energy one more time, which will benefit tourism sector a lot.
What about the hotels? Is it easy for them, for instance, to shift into using these kind of renewable energy, yes, turning into an eco-friendly, environmentally run hotels, institutions, diving centers? Is it easy for them to do that? Is it expensive for them to make this big shift?
I don't think so, because it's actually economical, more economical for them when you have your own a different alternative way of electricity, and especially for energy that are running your hotel. Normally it comes out with a lesser price than the traditional kind of energy that you're getting. And the government is giving you a lot of tax cuts because of this. And secondly, most of the hotels, they would want to reduce on their operational cost. And this comes in the core of their operational cost. So I think shifting into eco-friendly, it's what every entity or hospitality entity would want. I think reduction of expenses, yes, is what they would want as well. I think using natural resources and wisely with what they would want, keeping the environment and up to the standards is what they would want. I think polluting the economy or polluting whatever resources that they have is not an option these days, because the entire world is getting into a sustainable tourism pattern.
Yes. Well, if we are turning into a green sort of environmentally friendly tourism sector, how would we work on rebranding it? The strategy, I mean, would this be a big tool and a big sort of slogan for attracting more tourists, or should we focus more on other things? You've mentioned having a lot of events, which is always a great way to attract more tourists. You've mentioned that in a way we don't want to be overcrowded with tourists, but at the same time we want more tourists to come to Egypt from all around the world.
Quality tourism.
Quality tourism.
Yes.
So how can we strike that sort of balance following a well thought of strategy? Because you've mentioned to me before that it's after the recovery of the pandemic, from the pandemic, it's very much a level playing field for all the tourism sectors around the world.
It's reshuffling. You need to understand that things before the pandemic are not things after the pandemic. Things are reshuffling big time. And there are a lot of market shares that have been lost to a lot of competitors. So the competition is working hard. And if you think that countries are not doubling up their budgets right now for promoting tourism, we're wrong, because they are. And people are not only aiming to gain the same market share, but they want more. Why? Because it's reshaping. Whatever has been stable is not stable anymore, because these stable positions and partnerships are completely dissolved and dismantled, and there are ways that they are getting back together, but are working differently. So this kind of partnership, it's reshaping, and countries who are going to rebrand themselves and present themselves differently are going to get a bigger market share. The same thing applies for little companies. Companies who have been hurt during the pandemic, for example, from refund issues. They've received a lot of bad reviews, a lot of online reputation has been damaged. Then they need to, when they come now to work again and resume tourism or operation, they need to work on their online reputation, because that's called a rebranding. Their online reputation is far more important than their business right now.
Yes.
So we have a lot of options as a country to rebrand ourselves and present ourselves differently by presenting new types of tourism, by getting any positive news coming out of our country, whether it's economically, socially, or whether it's on the tourism level or even on the political level.
Yes.
Anything that comes out that encourage people would definitely part of the rebranding of the country. So creating the right quality content.
Yes.
This is what we want.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Khalifa has mentioned, the tourism sector internationally, globally, is reshuffling, and a lot of more effort needs to be done by Egypt, by the travel agencies, by the companies, by the private sector, to really help rebrand and redevelop an ongoing development process of marketing, remarketing, rebranding Egypt. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Mr. Alaa Khalifa, the tourism, marketing and strategy expert. Mr. Khalifa, always a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.